This is Shana Marie Jaros, an 18-year-old brutally stabbed inside her apartment. On the evening of October 31st, 1995, Shayna invited 3 guests for a get-together at her studio apartment in the little town of Nokomis, Illinois. Everything seemed normal, until the following morning when the landlady next door noticed Shayna's door was open. Upon inspection, she discovered something horrific. It was Shayna's bloody corpse lying on the floor. An autopsy later revealed Shayna suffered 54 stab wounds in the chest and neck. Her throat had been slit from ear to ear. Shana Marie Jaros was the oldest of 4 children to parents Dwayne and Debbie Jaros. They lived in Nokomis, a small Illinois town with about 2,000 people. Shayna was warm and friendly, lifting other people with her smile. After graduating from Nokomis High School in 1995, she worked as a certified nursing assistant at a nursing home and babysat in her free time. Shayna aspired to become a nurse one day, focusing on children or Alzheimer's patients. However, this dream would be cut short after Shayna turned 18 and decided to leave her parents' house. Wanting to become independent, Shayna moved into a studio apartment 1 week before her eventual murder. Although she was still settling into her new apartment, Shayna knew her neighbor, Kim, as they worked together in the nursing home. It was October 31st, 1995, the evening of Halloween. Kim had to work the night shift, so she couldn't take her 7-year-old child, Ronnie, trick-or-treating. Shayna, being the kind-hearted individual she was, decided to do her a favor and take Ronnie out to experience the fun activity. After making rounds in the neighborhood, Shayna took Ronnie back home. She then prepared to host a party at her new studio apartment. At around 8:30 p.m., Shayna welcomed 3 other guests, namely Tanya Gilmore, her boyfriend Jason Carver, as well as her neighbor Billy Malloy. Nobody knew the dynamics between these 4, whether it was a double date or simply a gathering of friends. An hour later, Dwayne brought Shayna's 10-year-old brother, Stefan, over to her apartment to go trick-or-treating. While Dwayne remained in the car, Stefan went over to Shayna's doorstep and knocked. As Shayna opened the door, she gave Stefan some candies and waved at her father, who was waiting in the car. Dwayne would usually wave back, but he chose not to this time. During that brief interaction, Stefan was able to see what was happening inside Shayna's apartment. Everything seemed fairly normal, as everyone was sitting around playing cards, with Jason and Billy drinking beer. This small get-together ended around midnight, with all of Shayna's guests going home, leaving her alone in the apartment. The following morning, at around 6:50 a.m., Shayna's next-door neighbor, who happened to be her landlady, walked out of her apartment. Suddenly, she noticed that the door to Shayna's place was open. She sensed something amiss and decided to enter, wanting to check on the new occupant. Inside, she was met with the gruesome sight of Shayna's bloodied corpse lying on the floor of the entry hallway. She was partially covered with a quilt. The landlady was horrified and quickly ran back to her apartment to call the Nokomis Police Department. They arrived shortly after. The police stayed at Shayna's apartment for about 8 hours, collecting evidence and anything that may lead to clues about her tragic fate. They did not notice anything unusual though, like signs of forced entry. Additionally, they believed there was no evidence that Shayna was violated. The police had to break the difficult news to Dwayne and Debbie. It was Montgomery County Coroner Rick Brodus who informed the parents that Shayna was found dead in her apartment. Shocked, Dwayne immediately called Debbie, who was at work, to tell her about their daughter's death. Debbie quickly ran back home. When the autopsy reports were done, they learned that Shayna had suffered 54 stab wounds in her chest and neck. Her throat had been brutally slit from ear to ear. The official cause of death for Shayna was the massive blood loss from her injuries. She died approximately at 4 a.m., according to the coroner's office. That meant that Shayna's body was believed to have been found just 2 hours after the crime happened. Naturally, the 3 people who attended Shayna's party, the last ones who saw her alive, were questioned by the police. Still, they didn't find enough reason for Tanya, Jason, and Billy to be considered suspects. So the police spoke with Shayna's neighbors. Shayna lived in a building with 6 apartments on one level. Although she had only been there for a week, Shayna already knew 3 out of the 6 people there: Kim, the landlady, and Billy. Shayna's next-door neighbor was out of town and couldn't really help with the investigation. However, the woman living adjacent to Shayna's apartment told police she heard some scuffling at around 4:46 a.m., but she didn't hear anyone entering or leaving at that time. There were also no reports of Shayna screaming, loud noise, or voices of people arguing from inside the apartment. The police theorized that Shayna's throat was slit first, before she was stabbed, making it impossible for her to alert the neighbors. As the investigation ensued, the police, unfortunately, had more questions than answers. The town of Nokomis was small and hadn't had a crime this serious since 1969. Additionally, Shayna was well liked in the community, so anyone close to her didn't have any suspicions as to who could commit such a crime. Nevertheless, the 54 stab wounds seemed to indicate it was a crime of passion. The police believed the killer knew Shayna and was angry at her. Shayna must have known the killer because of the orientation of her body, indicating she was immediately attacked after opening the front door. Furthermore, all of Shayna's belongings were in the apartment, prompting authorities to rule out a robbery, adding credibility to the theory that Shayna was indeed familiar with her killer. Shayna's family shared a different opinion though. As Shayna was naturally warm and would welcome most people, they didn't exclude the possibility that she could have opened the door to a complete stranger. In the first year of the investigation, the authorities received hundreds of tips from random people. Sadly, nobody had anything substantial. The police were able to collect 200 pieces of evidence from Shayna's apartment. They sent them to the state crime lab in Springfield and the FBI's crime lab in Washington for testing, but none of them led the investigators any closer to determining the killer. 27 years later, Shayna's case remains unsolved. Today, they're offering $10,000 for any information leading to an arrest. The investigation into Shana Jaros' case continues. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications by activating the bell icon. By doing so, you'll never miss out on new content, and it really helps us make these videos. So, like, subscribe, and activate the bell. We appreciate your support.